Brad Williams. Frugal Finance, you know I'm a fan of some of these government regulated programs across the United States, specifically this Securities and Exchange Commission. Who are they and what do they do? The role of the SEC, and this will be brief. This is just one of those FYIs and why you as an investor should rely on this particular department within the U.S. government. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has a three-part mission: protect investors, maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets, and facilitate capital formation. What does that mean? That means when a stock goes public, you as an investor need some protection. Congress created the SEC when the stock market crashed in October 1929. When the stock market crashed in October 1929, so did public confidence in the United States. Congress held hearings to identify the problems and search for solutions. Based on its findings, Congress, in the peak year of the Depression, passed the Securities Act of 1933. The following year, it passed the Securities Exchange Act of 1934, which created the SEC. The main purpose of these laws can be reduced to two common sense notions. Companies offering securities for sale to the public must tell the truth about their business, securities they are selling, and the risks involved in investing in those securities. Those who sell and trade securities, brokers, dealers, and exchanges, must treat investors fairly and honestly. Pretty straightforward. The SEC forces publicly traded companies to produce mounds and mounds of documentation. But it's still not foolproof. Every day, you're going to read reports about people inside trading, about fraud, about CFOs manipulating the numbers. It's endless. And the SEC can do the best. They can try and do the best that they can, but people think they're smarter than everyone else. And so their arrogance goes into play, and eventually they get busted. And I applaud this. However, here we are in the middle of 2024, and there's going to be some radical changes. This new upcoming administration does not like regulation. And I'm hoping that the SEC can still retain some clause, but just think of it in this analogy. I suspect this administration is going to file down those clauses, and just investor beware that less regulation, you're going to possibly see some shenanigans. Not saying outright fraud, but you as an investor need to be cognizant that less regulation means more fraud. Now, more information on the SEC here. Their mission, as I just stated, their goal is protecting investors. When I was a stockbroker a zillion years ago, we were introduced to the secret room on the New York Stock Exchange. And it was the supercomputers, and this is back 35 years ago. And they had some powerful enforcement capability back then. And they said, our regulations and everything are protected using this technology. And it was very high tech back then. I can't imagine the technology that they use today in order to protect individuals like you and me. There are shenanigans. There are just absolute crooks on Wall Street. But then again, there are a lot of legit, I would say 99.9% has to follow the laws. A lot of attorneys out there that look for inaccuracies. That's just a good word to use. And when there's inaccuracies, there is securities fraud. Companies have to maintain strict guidelines set by this department, and I applaud. And I hope they retain this capability. These links will be available below. If you have any questions, comment. This is all about frugal finance, all about you making some money and making sure some of it isn't taking away from you in some of the actions we're seeing on a day-to-day basis on the internet. We're seeing fraud left and right. We're seeing people breaking into and hijacking companies online. That's a never-ending battle. And then we have this SEC stuff where not only is it the public companies, but there's a lot of shady activity. It's called the pink sheets. And what are the pink sheets? They're called penny stocks. And they're less regulated by the SEC, so you're going to see a lot of pump and dump. What's pump and dump? I'll have another video on that. But there's always someone out there trying to cheat out the retail investor. Buyer beware. It's up to you to do your due diligence. And this is one of the resources you have in your back pocket now that I introduced it to you. Read it. Brad Williams, Frugal Finance. Thanks for watching. See you soon.